You're listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. Powered by Bathtub Guys Refinishing. We discuss the refinishing industry, interview owners and operators, and give tips to business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host, Daniel Montalvo.
Hey there. It's me again. So, guys, you guys who listen to the podcast know, if you've been part of this ride, part of this journey with me for a little bit, that we have had our fair share of hate this way from doing things just a little bit differently than other people. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that. I don't like to give that stuff too much attention, so I'm not naming any names or anything. But I will say it is getting like comically common now. So it is what it is. I think that it's all coming from people who are nervous and who just don't have a ton of confidence in what they're doing. So because they see other people moving a certain way, they feel like they need to get nasty with people. I will share probably some of the conversation with blocking who the person is. But a lot of you who are in the space can come to your conclusions. I'm going to be talking about some misconceptions about DIY kits and the quality of DIY kits. Now, this is not a pro DIY thing. I still don't think, regardless of my relationship with Patrick and what he does, I don't think that refinishing is a DIY if you want a really good quality job. I don't believe that, but he begs to differ to an extent. But it depends on the quality that you're expecting. But I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm also going to be talking about some Bathtub Guys licensing stuff too, about new locations and potential for that, where we're eyeing to add people and where we're adding to employ people in said locations. So that is all coming up on this episode of the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. We're going to leave the stupid little hate stuff for last, because I think that stuff is silly. I do address some of it, but more and more it's just getting nauseating and just obvious that, it's just people who don't have shit going on in their own business. So we're going to leave that for last. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is actually the DIY conversation, because I do think that a lot of refinishers who are professionals are kind of misguided on their opinions on DIY products as far as the quality of the products. And a lot of them actually don't realize that they're kind of misleading themselves and customers when they talk about how DIY kits are monetarily anyway cheap. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. One of the misconceptions that I see, and I'm calling out this brand name not because any defense towards them or anything like that. Not because of any other reason other than this is one of the most common ones that people bring up is Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum has a DIY kit for tub and tile. They also have like appliance paint and stuff like that, things that are similar in the space. And a lot of people say that, what do you expect for like paint that costs, $50-$60. I think Rust-Oleum kits are like $100 now for like a tub refinishing kit, if I'm not mistaken. But what would you expect for $100? Like, that's cheap quality paint. That's cheap paint. It only costs $100. And I think when you connect it to being cheap monetarily, I think a lot of you guys are actually like saying the wrong thing. It's funny, but think about it this way, is that these kits are like $100. What's used in professional reglazing is oftentimes cheaper because you are buying a gallon of it at a time. So if you buy your top coating catalyst for a job, I know what I used to pay from Midwest Chemical. It was under $100 per gallon. And a gallon of mixed top coat would get you like between 10 and 13 bathtubs, depending on the context. So, which is really monetarily cheap. It is oftentimes, because of the volume we buy, because they don't have to store it in retail and all these other factors, oftentimes it is the quote unquote professional grade products. But one of the things I do want to talk about, and that's just beside the point, that's just framing that conversation that way. I think a lot of you guys actually have never sat and like thought about what you're actually saying, because truthfully, your application is cheaper. It's cheaper monetarily. That being said, though, it's not to say that a professional job and a DIY job are anywhere near comparable in terms of quality. The reason that I'm even bringing this up is because a lot of people think that it's inherently the product itself that is bad. And what I would argue is that most of the stuff that is sold to professionals are very closely related derivatives of the consumer grade versions of these products. It's usually a 2-part poly system is what's standard in refinishing kind of across the board, right? The Rust-Oleum tub and tile kit is a similar thing. It is some sort of 2-part poly. There are some that are 2-part epoxy, whatever have you there. But the products are pretty much like 90% the same architecture. Some of the things vary a little bit. Obviously, a homeowner is probably not going to spray it, so it's probably modified to have more open time so it rolls on easier, whatever it is. But these products are not inherently bad quality products. Realistically, I don't know about you, and I've been contemplating even making this recently because like this video and this conversation, but I've been talking about it with more people recently. And it's like, let's be real. The only reason the industrial coating manufacturers get our business most of the time is because if you had the option to buy the product at the big box store, it is actually more expensive than buying it from an industrial coating manufacturer. The stuff that's at the store is more expensive, which is why you go and you buy it wholesale. Because if you could just buy it for the same exact price, why would you, like from a big box store, why would you give up that convenience to ship stuff over and all that? I mean, people go to the hardware. A lot of refinishers, a lot of you watching this right now, go to the hardware store to get your Bondo. You go to the hardware store to get your sandpaper and your abrasives and your mixing sticks and all this, your solvents. And that's all consumer grade things that are also used in industrial or, in service application settings too. What's the big differentiator, right? Well, the big differentiator, number one, is how it's marketed and a lot of people's misconceptions about it. But the product itself isn't inherently bad. Like Rust-Oleum is not, it's not like miles worse or maybe even that much worse, or even that much different than what you would probably get from Midwest Chemical or Top Coat or Hawk or any of these companies. And why do I say that, right? Like, what the hell's the point of all this? Well, the point of all this is to say the biggest hang up with DIY isn't actually the product that's being used. I think a lot of people are missing how silly they sound when they say certain things. Rust-Oleum is a international worldwide brand that is probably worth like tens of billions of dollars. Matter of fact, in real time, I'm going to search this up because I don't have it off the top of my head. But like Rust-Oleum, let me see, Rust-Oleum, let's see what their company is worth. Okay. So Rust-Oleum itself, okay, generates around $1 billion in annual revenue, and the parent company generates net sales nearing $7.37 billion. Okay, so my point with all that is to say, when you say that that stuff is no good, it's not actually meant for this type of application, what you're saying is that a company that has hundreds of millions of dollars in research and development, the manufacturing of products en masse, and just an insane reputation worldwide of making coatings for similar industries, just couldn't crack the code on how to make their paint stick to a tub. Not only is a prospect thinking, because you might not know this, but a lot of people know what Rust-Oleum is. Rust-Oleum is huge in the car painting space. It's like their anti-corrosives are big. A lot of their primers are used. They make a lot of industrial coatings for other types of things. A lot of people think, number one, that you're full of shit. And number two, that you just sound silly because this company is gigantic. This is a conglomerate that runs this company. That's not to say that everything that giant corporations make is good. We all know that that's not the case. But if you think that the stuff that they sell at the shelf for a person to do themselves is in any way like miles and miles and miles inferior on its actual use case, if it's installed the right way, than what's available for professionals, that is almost exclusively manufactured by mom and pop type industrial coating manufacturers, then I think you guys are smoking something. Like, Top Coat is owned by Sumter. Sumter's a really big company. Rust-Oleum's bigger. And their parent company is bigger. And the parent companies from all these other companies are significantly bigger. They have the resources to make sure these things are tested and tried and true. Now, where the big distinction comes in, and this is where I am 100% on the side of the professionals. To do a professional job with these types of coatings that don't behave like interior wall paint, for example, that need a little bit more rigorous preparation because these are areas that are going to be wet, exposed to water for the long term, all of that. In the actual application, if you want it to look like seamless, like it looks like you just popped in a brand new bathtub, if that's what your end goal is, DIY isn't for you. It's not for you. DIY comes with a low cost entry, and what you're getting is a very small marginal improvement. Okay. It's very small. Like it's going to be like, this tub is hideous and disgusting. Now it's usable, has some imperfections, but I can live with that because my budget was $100 and that's all I could afford to pay. That being said though, and this is another place where I side 100% with the professionals, is that, and by the way, I own a bathtub refinishing company. So like, I think about these things often and how we sound to people when we say certain things. And I've been thinking about this. It's like the product isn't bad, but it also is like a glass half full, right? Because realistically, when you think about it, they don't give you all the tools that you need to do this job at the highest quality level possible. You do get some stuff to kind of chemically treat the surface, from what I understand, for Rust-Oleum. I've never myself used it. You also do, get a couple things, but they don't give you everything you would need to, for example, do a chip repair. I don't think that they come with a primer. Mistake me if I'm wrong. Or mistake me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mistake me if I'm wrong. Look at me. It's a mistake to get the damn DIY kit, I think. But for most people, depending on what your situation is too, because like budgetary reasons, I think it's a valid option sometimes. But for people who think that it's a one-to-one comparison of some DIY kit and what you would get from a professional, now that's a completely different story as far as the actual outcome of the finished piece cosmetically and the expectation of the finished piece durability wise, right? So when it comes to that, it's not even close of a comparison most of the time. That being said, is the quality of the material, which is what I want to focus on here. Is the quality of the material that much worse? No, it's almost, it's as good or better, because they have years and years and years of R&D doing this, and a lot of the people who take on these DIY tasks. Number one would probably never be your customer, at least in the moment where they choose consciously, I'm going to pay $100 versus paying the professional $500 or $600. They're not your customer though. You know what I mean? They might become your customer later if they have a bad experience. And that's okay. But in the moment, they chose price over everything. And those people, they just can't be convinced. And if they're a little bit handy and do some research, they can get an okay result for their money. But it's never going to be a replacement for what a professional can do. But is the product actually worse? I don't think so. I truly think that in many cases, they're as good or better because these kinds of paints need to be tried and tested for somebody who the person selling it knows is not as comprehensively trained or as detail oriented as a professional. It basically has to be good enough for them to know that someone who's doing this at their house is probably going to skip some steps. And when you put it in that angle, it's actually remarkable that a lot of the places where this product is listed, so well, Rust-Oleum and Tub and Tile for this, comparison, but a lot of the other DIY kits that are out there are like in the 4.0, 4.2 out of 5-star range. And that's just of people who have reviewed it. Keep in mind that most people review things when they're pissed off, especially products. If something works as it's designed, a lot of people won't take the time out to review it. So that being said, that's pretty impressive that they hold relatively high ratings and most people seem to be happy with their purchase. And if the material was just absolutely useless and dog shit, I just don't think that would translate to their online reputation. And I also don't think it would translate to a big conglomerate company continuing to sell something that they know is bad and people who buy it don't like it. Because at the end of the day, I can say this all I want, but it continues to be produced. You can say, oh, it's horrible. I've used it. It's bad. I had a bad experience. Cool. And I understand that. And I'm not disagreeing with you. And I'm not disagreeing because I stripped not me personally, but we at Bathtub Guys, we strip those jobs all day. That if somebody doesn't know what they're doing, they can have the same professional material that you have and also have a tub that peels and fails in a relatively short amount of time. So if you don't know what you're doing, it doesn't matter what coating you use, you will have issues. It doesn't matter if it's Rust-Oleum. It doesn't matter if it's Krylon. It doesn't matter if it's Tubcast roll-on that Patrick sells on Amazon, or even the pour-on stuff. If you don't know what you're doing, if you don't read the instructions and follow the directions, it doesn't matter what you're using. You can have issues. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I feel like the framing from a lot of professionals out there, and again, it's your business, you do however you want, but I changed the framing because I realized that it's kind of hypocritical to say Rust-Oleum when you lump it all in as the brand is this problematic brand, that the product is a problematic product, when a lot of this stuff is derivatives of the same stuff that are used in most professional systems. And I would be surprised if some of these companies who bottle material, who manufacture it, don't get raw materials that has at some point either benefited from the research and development of these big companies, because a lot of the time it's publicly funded research that they use, or private, and someone buys it off of them and continues to do their own thing. That they either got those recipes or buy stuff that comes from the same hands and the same distributors as these people. What I'm getting at is that a lot of this stuff probably comes from the same place. So to say that the big company that is worth $7 billion doesn't know what they're doing. But my paint manufacturer that does well and makes industrial coatings, and it's a specialty coating, they know better, I think is kind of silly. And I think that a lot of people don't realize how silly they sound because people know Rust-Oleum for other things. And to flip that on its head too, a lot of you guys use Rust-Oleum and don't even know it. I was talking to a professional who was saying like, oh, all their products are horrible. And then we started talking about countertop refinishing, and they told me what they used. And I broke the news to them that the Fleck that they use, that is used in most professional systems, is made by Rust-Oleum. And they didn't know that. Yeah. So multi-spec is made by Rust-Oleum. And a lot of people don't know that. I also believe that Stonefleck from Hawk is also exclusively made by Rust-Oleum for Hawk Labs. So again, we can trust them for that, but we can't trust them for this other thing. No, it's because that thing, and I just Googled it to make sure I wasn't crazy, but yes, it's true. Rust-Oleum owns multi-spec. It's that the product is not for you as a professional. And it's not really for someone expecting a professional result either. It's, in this instance, the Rust-Oleum DIY kit is for somebody who wants an improvement and doesn't want to break the bank, can't quite afford a professional, and it's a solution for them. It is a solution. The product itself is a solid product. It's actually probably a really good product. And for the majority of people who use it, it's good enough. The type of person that goes out searching for a $100 fix will probably never pay $500 for said fix unless they already experience the pain of trying the $100 alternative, and then they realize they're too far over their head and they call in a professional. So I did want to talk about that because, again, my whole point with this is that the real reason the DIY kits don't work has a ton less to do about the material being used and the actual science behind that material, because these guys have state-of-the-art research and development going on with tens of millions of dollars and billions in revenue backing them. So they're definitely not just phoning it in. It's less about the actual science of those products and more about the person who is installing it. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I think that when a lot of people are talking to prospects on the phone, that the conversation should shift from, well, why did you call me? I can buy a kit for $100. Got it. So why didn't you do that? Because I think a lot of you guys would be surprised at what kind of answer you get. Instead of being defensive, this is turning into a sales lesson for you guys, so buckle up. I think a lot of you guys would be surprised if instead of trying to convince them by saying, well, that product sucks. Let me tell you something. They've researched the product. People, the same way they read your reviews, they've read those reviews. Okay. They researched the company, who makes it, a lot of them, how much this company's worth. Are they a legit company? The company that they don't know what they're doing, those kits suck, they fall off all the time. Okay, that may be true. But I think from what I garner, a lot of people try to defend their pricing. Don't ever defend it. Get to the reason as to why they called you and didn't go with the thing. Ask good questions. The way I'd handle that is, Daniel, $750 for a tub is asinine. No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I could go and get a DIY kit and I could do it for $100 and I see this price and this is astronomical. Yeah, Gary, I understand. So out of curiosity, so why didn't you just do that? And you will probably get the answer of they're just not confident in doing it themselves. They have a timeline restraint. They've never done anything like this before. They want some sort of warranty. They're afraid that it's going to fall off. And then now, instead of defending, you can connect how your solution as a professional fixes and addresses these concerns over here. You're no longer selling. You're allowing them to sell themselves. Why? And I've talked about this before. Because they believe it more when they say it. If you tell them, hey, doing the DIY kit is really hard and you can mess it up, and now they feel like they want to prove you wrong, kind of. Now they start thinking, well, can I really do it? Whatever. When you ask them to tell you why they called you, why are you on the phone with a professional if you could just do it for $100? Then they say the real reason. Now you have plenty to close that sale and actually get that person to go with you. If you get defensive, they are probably going to believe the institution more than they believe you. Fact of the matter is, you can go on Home Depot's website. You can see those reviews from all over the country. It's being sold by a big box, reputable retailer. And you're just some guy. Even me, I'm just some guy. I mean, we have the growing locations and everything. I'm just some guy, though. I'm just some guy. I'm not Home Depot. I'm not Rust-Oleum. I'm not these well-known giant companies. You're telling me that they don't know what they're doing? No, you got to get them to admit that they don't know what they're doing as the customer. See what I'm saying? They would not call if they used that defense in a sales call. If I could just go get this thing done for $100, cool. Why didn't you? Because if that was the truth, if they had the confidence to do so, they would have already done it. They wouldn't have wasted the time on the sale. What they're really looking for is for you to come down, or for you to convince them to buy from you. But you never actually win convincing somebody by saying, oh my God, we're the best and we do this and we're better, and that stuff sucks. No one likes that. It looks icky. It feels salesy. People believe everything more when they say it. When they say they can't do it, it's real because they said they can't do it. So now when you say, well, I mean, if those are your concerns, our product addresses all of those and here's how, and then you shut up, a lot of the times you end up closing that sale. And I'm saying that because that is probably the only scenario other than somebody messing up, somebody who buys a DIY kit, messes it up, and then comes to a professional. That is the only other time that a potential DIYer is somebody that you can turn into a customer. The person who goes and buys the $100 kit, those people will never be your customers. Those are the ones that reached out, saw the pricing, and just went and bought the thing and actually went and got and did it. And that's why they've never responded to you. That's why, this, that, and the third. That's what, a lot of times they're contemplating. But if you have them on the phone and they're still contemplating, after they already know the DIY kit, they already know that it's cheaper, they already know that they already know that there's an option for them to do it themselves. If you don't pull back those layers and get to the root of as to why, then they will just go buy it. But ask them why they didn't do it in the first place. I think that's really important. So that's to say, again, don't think that you have to talk down another completely different, company, method, product, whatever it is, to sell your thing. Instead, ask really good questions, because a lot of the time you can make yourself look a heck of a lot better by just listening and asking questions until you get to the root of what the actual objection is. The objection there is price disguised as it's price. It's their inability to do it, or their own, for the customer, it's their own inability to do it, or their own self-confidence is the actual objection disguised as price. because realistically, again, they would have just spent $100 if that was an option, but it's not really an option. That's why they haven't done it. They want a professional to do it. And if you come down, it makes them feel a little bit better about it. But if you just stand your ground and make them say that that's the reason why, then now solving that problem just has $1 of value attached to it, but you know what it actually is. On to the next thing. I hope that made sense to you guys. Like I said, a lot of these, these products are in shared industries from the same plants, industrial coating manufacturers. A lot of these things are derivatives of similar things. And so when you like kind of push it down and like kind of downplay like what these big consumer grade products that are sold in giant trusted brands, like what they are capable of, I think it's kind of silly, because we use, like, people are like, oh, the cheap Home Depot kit. You use plenty of stuff from Home Depot. What's the problem? It's not the kit itself. It's not the product itself. It's the individual that's using it. Just like anything. Just like when everyone says like there's a big segment of people online that say refinishing sucks and it's a waste of money. Why do they think that? Because they went with a couple cheap dudes who screwed it all up, or a couple guys who weren't trained properly and screwed it all up. And then their whole misconception is about the industry as a whole. How many times have we heard that as professionals? Oh, it just chips and peels. And they think that because that was their experience with it. And so, but it all just reflects back down on the individual who's actually providing the service, or in this case, the individual who's installing it. So next thing I want to talk about, Bathtub Guys licensing. We are back full throttle. I got a couple of people potentially lined up for some locations. I will tell you where we're kind of eyeing to continue on. I want to kind of get into the Midwest region a little bit more prominently. So right now we are actively looking for potential licensees who want locations for Bathtub Guys licensing in Chicago, and also Missouri. I did speak with a gentleman about Missouri. We were in early talks about it. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but I do actively want people in those regions. So if you want to join Bathtub Guys licensing, if you want a Bathtub Guys location, we do have options for you. The way it works is you buy in for $10,000, and you basically get all the tools that you need to be a Bathtub Guys location. You are your own business. You use our licensing. We have some licensing agreements that include things like using our branding, Google Ads, using our custom software, and we take 10% of revenue for showing you kind of how our business works and our brand standards and how to identify it as a Bathtub Guys location. And again, those are things that we show you. It's encouraged that you stick with it, but you can do your own thing, do things a little differently. We're not like these big corporate overlords that are like micromanaging every part of your business, or really any of your business. But we have a successful blueprint that is working now in like 10 locations. And so, if you follow that, you'll have great results. If not, that's also okay. You still might have great results, but you get to benefit by presenting as a brand that is going national. And we charge a pretty penny for our services. Most of the time, we're starting our package pricing for tubs at $499. Mid-tier option with a 5-year warranty is up to $749. And the top end is like $949. We don't lock you into that pricing. So if you want to charge more, feel free. It's your location. If you want to charge less, also feel free. We don't have standardized pricing across the board. But I do think that for a lot of you, if you guys joined a bigger team, we can give you tools that would help propel you to those kinds of figures and beyond. And that is for the residential space. Obviously, in the commercial space, it's a little different. We talk about that stuff internally, kind of what pricing we use and kind of where we recommend a good starting point would be. But those are all things that you get with Bathtub Guys licensing. It's $10,000 to buy in. It is 10% of revenue. You get a Bathtub Guys location, get access to the product. We give you training if you want it for the administrative office stuff, and we do another week training also for Tubcast application, which is highly, highly, highly encouraged. I haven't had one person who joined the Bathtub Guys who has not done it, and most people who do it have amazing results. Everyone who has a Bathtub Guys location who does roll on every day has great results with it. And that's something I want to touch on briefly before I get to the next thing, because the next thing is silly, and it's kind of beating a dead horse, but real quick, when we started selling Tubcast to other people, we sold it to a couple companies, and these couple companies mostly refused to do training. They turned down training. They had this weird kind of misconception of what training is. And when we train people to use this product in this system, we train them for a week. You are doing it every day on real jobs, not in a tub, in a shop, in a garage somewhere, not in your basement, we train people on the job, on real jobs with technicians who do it every day and get paid with it every single day. And we run a ton of locations, like I said, we're in 10. And, if the product had some sort of catastrophic issue, we would know about it. But that's not the case. Now, what is the case is that a lot of the people who are kind of bad-mouthing the product and our company never actually got trained. There is a company, I'm not going to name names, but they were kind of friendly with Patrick, and Patrick wanted them to convert to the system, and he flew over to them, and they went to a job together. And Patrick kind of showed him how he does it. Patrick, the guy who makes the paint, not someone who's a trainer, not somebody who is a technician, showed him how he applies it. It was a one-day thing, a single day. And when we left that situation, like when Patrick left that situation, he asked them if they wanted a technician to be trained. And they said that they've seen enough. This was, again, back when it was the beginning. Now we know better. Now we know that if you want Tubcast at all, you pretty much need to get trained, because you just won't fully understand it unless you do it every day for a week. You need to understand how the coating works with somebody who knows how it works. So they said no. We offered to fly someone over here. So fly one of their guys over here. They said no, that they could figure it out. And just like the last couple people that we talked about, they had issues. One of the things, and one of the reasons why, I just think it's nauseatingly silly, is that even the stuff that they post that are quote unquote failures, you can clearly see if you work with the product every day like we do, but they don't. And it's okay because, whatever, they just didn't do the training. But I know from what I've seen, one of the gentlemen posted a picture of a sink. And I know because I've been around some of the trainings for the roll-on, but my technician, Santiago, he's the trainer. We know, because we use it every day, that when guys who come from a spray background are around the drain area of a bathtub or a sink, they tend to be a little bit too kind of, for lack of a better word, like pussy about it. And they go really light around that area because they don't want the tape over the drain to stick to their roller or to accidentally paint the drain. So they go over it lightly and with a lot of finesse. And what ends up happening is they don't get even mill build there. And what does that do? We know, because if you know that part, you know what's coming next, is that when they turn the water on and water starts sitting there, it's thinner around the drain area than the rest of it, and it starts to peel. And one of the people who's recently been on a little bit of a hate tirade about this whole thing posted it, and you can literally see that it failed at the point of the drain. The rest of it is perfectly fine. And because we know what that comes from doesn't happen to us, because we train people to be aware that they're going too light on areas like that. But because they didn't get trained, they're using the kind of sprayer logic where it's like, well, maybe less is more, and well, I'm rolling it, and you know, when they don't want something to go wrong, and I get it. But these are the reasons why we basically stopped selling to people who wouldn't do training, and why it's gone back to basically be the Bathtub Guys exclusive with some small exceptions, is that they screw it up and then they stop using it, and then they never actually learn because they didn't get trained and they're not using it enough to learn these things. And so they just discount the entire thing as like it sucks. When similar to the last little, segment that we had about DIY kits, it's a lot more about who's installing it and their knowledge of installing specific types of things than it is about a defect in the product itself. Go and search a Bathtub Guys location, and you won't find one with less than like 4.4 or 4.5. We don't bat 100% every time, but on the actual work itself, find me a sizable amount of reviews about failures anywhere. Our location in Orlando has a 4.9 rating with 330 reviews. Most of the reviews that I have about D-Lambs are from when we sprayed. I think almost all of them, actually. Our Texas location, similar. They don't have a ton of reviews, and they have a lower rating because they're newer. But some of their bad reviews, I believe most of them, are because of customer service things, not even having to do with the application. And in most other locations, they hold perfect ratings. Why am I saying that? To say that, look, for regardless of what you may hear, none of you who are saying these things actually got training, and you know it because you were offered training after said things. It was actually very similar to what happened with the New York guy that I shared the story about with you guys. So the New York guy came over here because he was in Miami because he was recovering from some foot surgery or something. And he comes up to my shop and rolls a tub on in the shop. And then he goes and watches Santiago roll one tub on. And then he's like, I get it. I know what I'm doing now. Knowing what you know now doesn't fix the 8 months of saying no to training. And it still doesn't fix anything because you didn't actually get trained. You just did it wrong a ton of times, and now you're just upset because when I offered him free training, he said no. When he has a bunch of issues and then comes back to take a look at what a guy's doing on the field, he's like, well, I mean, I want you to give me replacement paint because this shouldn't have happened to the paint. And it's like, well, dude, you've been doing it wrong because you didn't know how to do it. And he still doesn't know how to do it because all he did was do one here and then see another guy do one once, and he didn't get any more hands-on with it. Similar thing over there. And again, and I'm going to talk about this kind of just one last time, but when any of you out there started with your coating manufacturer of choice, okay, a lot of you guys probably came from other systems first, and when you started refinishing in the very beginning of your refinishing career, how many times did you stop and go and blame the manufacturer because you had issues? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. When you were new to this, when you were new to something, when you were new to refinishing as a whole, and you had issues, did you call the paint manufacturer every time you had an issue, or did you go and figure out how it worked, or go and get training, or whatever? Most people in this industry either got trained by somebody and screwed up a sizable amount of jobs. And I know because I had 9 sprayers at one point. I know what it takes. I have friends who spray. Danny Garcia's company. How many jobs does a refinishing technician screw up before they're capable of going out on their own? Let's be honest with ourselves. A lot more than the opportunity that was afforded to us. When we had people use Tubcast, they'd do 2 or 3 jobs, have issues, and then never report them. And then when they're mad that Daniel's creeping up on them in their side of town, or that Daniel's doing things that might threaten their business because they do a lot of multifamily, and that I'm leaning more into multifamily, now they choose to yap about all these things. Number one, as if they're relevant. And number two, not affording us the same respect that they gave everybody else when they came up in the industry, and realizing that you aren't going to master a new system in 2 days. Does some of that come from the way we kind of spoke about it? Sure. But our stuff was always from the angle of you should really get trained. And I don't think that training is, hey, I sent you the product. This is more or less how to do it. Good luck. I don't think that's training. I think training is coming to a place, doing real jobs every day, and getting a real grasp from someone who has mastered it. Because again, if people think I'm just lying, it's like, you can think whatever you want, but it's like 10 locations. We're all just like, yeah, man. So what we're going to do is we're going to do all these jobs for all this, like for really good money. And then it's all just going to fall off. And then what? And then what happens to our reputation? And then what happens to all the people who signed aboard? It's like the insinuation is that like this stuff sucks and it's horrible. Just like I said about the DIY thing though. Is it that the product is horrible? Or is it just that you don't know how to apply it? I'd argue the latter on that one. And to tie it all together for today's episode, before I yap on too long, Guy gets mad. This guy's like mid, I was talking to my boy, mid to high, like it's like temperature, but it's like mid to late 40s, has to be. And Guy runs a big company out of Pennsylvania, and he uses the tagline sometimes that I've heard plenty of other companies use. That's basically built for multifamily is the tagline. And we were cool. He wanted to be a part of the entire thing. Like he still has post up about odor-free refinishing. Never got trained, never did it, whatever. Same song and dance. Like why? Like he's never going to actually convert because he already has trucks. He already has spray guys. They already do something one way. Like whatever. I get it. I don't even care about him buying paint. What I care about though is that because I said in a video that I made recently, the Bathtub Guys Refinishing is built for multifamily, he went and put out a hate post insinuating that Patrick owns Bathtub Guys from Refinish Bath Solutions own Bathtub Guys, which he owns the Massachusetts location, but not my company. And that I'm somehow like owned by the manufacturer or something like that. Which is funny because like I do talk to Patrick pretty often, but like he has no actual oversight over anything that goes on here. We collaborate a lot. I like working together with him. But it's just, we're both highly motivated and we both want similar things, but him owning any part of my business, no. So what I'm getting at with that is that all this happens, right? And I say like, hey, Bathtub Guys built for multifamily, do a whole little video about it. And this guy puts out this hate post kind of insinuating that it's all butthurt because I said the words built for multifamily. And I'm showing the conversation here. And it's like, he literally made it like how petty a grown man could be, right? Guy's like 40 something, almost 50, has kids that are in high school, by the way. Like, what? He made it seem like his gripe was with the product and look at all these roll-on failures. And then he writes in his message, well, I just didn't like that you said built for multifamily. That's my line. It's my line, bro. Come on, bro. We need to grow the fuck up, man. We need to grow the fuck up. Number one, that term has been used by a ton of companies. Notably, Danny Garcia's company, Alliance, I have for sure heard him say that. That's for number one. Bigger than your company, by the way. And second, this is not some trademarked like jingle. This is not the ba-da-ba-ba-ba McDonald's. This is not the have it your way Burger King. Like, dude, you're just some guy. You don't own that. Just like that would be like me getting upset that people are out here saying don't replace reglaze. Well, my dad owned a refinishing company since 1998 and he used that slogan, so you can't use it. Come on, bro. Grow up. And look, man, again, aside from all the other stuff, how silly and petty and the lengths that people will go to over the dumbest shit just never ceases to amaze me. Dude, from what I understand, your company does very well. From what I understand, you got plenty of commercial accounts. Why, instead of bringing it to my front door and saying this is not something that I like, can we talk about this? Instead of this and the third, you use the paint as like your paint sucks and blah blah blah. It's like, well, cool. Like, I don't want you to use it anyway. I don't care. You know, I'm just gonna pop a place up in fucking Philly and eventually put you out of business. And negotiate national deals, all those things that we talked about because we talked about it, and you know it's going to happen. And I think that's really what's going on here, is that I'm using the tagline, he can sense where the tide is shifting. He's an old, boring legacy company that is doing the same thing they've always done. And my company is new and young and exciting, and he is afraid. Because I don't know about you, but what guy who's winning hard is out here just like making shit posts on his company page about other people? Cringe. You're too old for this shit. And sitting there and typing away and making Instagram posts instead of getting up and doing something about it, that's the reason why a lot of those old legacy companies are just going to die in silence. Oh, and not to mention, 2/3 of those commercial accounts he has, his daddy got them. And look, I'm not here to say anything negative about the nepotism world, because look, like at the end of the day, it's no secret. I've talked about it openly. I am here and in this position a lot easier because my parents started this business. My journey, though, was completely different. When I took over this business, it was tens of thousands of dollars in debt. There was no employees. There was no advertising. The phone number on their website was incorrect, and they didn't even know it. Their Google My Business listing didn't have a website connected to it. Didn't have, like, my parents were immigrant parents who just kind of slapped something together. They had a very solid base of, well, we got some vehicles. We have word of mouth commercial clients that we've garnered over a couple of years. We got some turbines and some equipment. And so I didn't have to start at zero. I would say I probably started on second base. But when someone's awarded like the keys to the kingdom, and then they just get mad at other people who are just doing stuff, it just comes off so like petty and sad. Because dude is twice my age, and he really thinks that some throwaway tagline is like of great importance to his business. He's got it all wrong, dude. And that's why he's going to lose. But I'm going to leave you guys there. I appreciate you guys watching this podcast, listening to where you listen to podcasts. Again, Bathtub Guys Licensing. If you are interested in a location, 689-271-9934. You can give me a call. You can also email me, service@bathtubguys.com. And soon I'm going to be talking some stuff also about my new business, Toolbag CRM, which is coming soon. I am very excited about that. CRM built for contractors. It's going to be better than Jobber, House Call Pro, all that stuff. We are running a basically the first build version of it internally for our custom software, but we've made it like a full-on product, and that's going to be really fun to share with you guys soon. You could run your business more efficiently with Toolbag CRM. So I appreciate you guys watching this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Bathtub Refinishing Podcast. If you liked what you heard, be sure to keep up with the Bathtub Guys on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or visit bathtubguys.com for more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.